You rarely see unity like this in a city as divided as Washington. The unity was so heady, in fact, so delightful and intoxicating, that no one remembered to ask the most basic question. Why exactly are we doing this? What's the point? Is the point to bankrupt Vladimir Putin? That might be worth doing, but this won't do it. Putin already has ready markets around the world for his oil, starting in China, in India, and Turkey. So that's not going to work. So who exactly are these sanctions aimed at? Think about it. If you want to identify the target of a penalty, consider who's going to suffer most from it. And in this case, the answer could not be clear. It's middle-income Americans.
So Tucker Carlson is at it again. And this time it is about gas prices. Now this is one of Tucker Carlson's favorite strategies, which is to say something that is true and use that to make an argument that is ridiculous.
Because oil companies have not used all the permits they've received, Jen Psaki told us, that means this is their fault. They're not trying hard enough to produce energy. They could, but they don't want to. But wait a second, Jen Psaki. What if there's no oil or gas underneath the permitted land? In that case, energy producers would want permits for land where the energy is. Turns out they don't want dry wells, they want wells that flow. But they're not getting them, thanks to the Green New Deal lobby that completely controls this administration. They can't get those permits.
So let's break this down. First and foremost, yeah, Joe Biden is to a certain degree responsible for gas prices going up because of the sanctions that he put on Russia. And now the reason why I'm not saying that he's entirely responsible is because if you'll notice, gas prices actually went up before he put sanctions on Russia. Now that's pretty strange. And the more you think about it, the more strange it gets. Because these oil companies basically knew that they could use the war as justification to say, yes, let's increase gas prices. We think that prices are going to increase, so we're going to increase them in advance of them thinking that it's going to increase. Basically, making sure that they're going to continue to make ridiculous profits. Which, by the way, is not necessary component of this. You know that these oil companies don't really have to make a profit. That's actually why other countries nationalize their oil supply so that a natural resource that people need to do business is cheaper for everybody. Of course, though, Tucker Carlson is not going to point out that solution, because this is where it gets interesting. Tucker Carlson will take the fact that is oil prices are going up because Joe Biden's sanctioning Russia, use that as an attack on Joe Biden and say that he's doing this on purpose to attack working class people, and then will offer up a solution that is fundamentally nonsense. Tucker Carlson's solution, or rather one of the things that he is blaming Biden for, is not approving more oil pipelines. Now, if you listen to Jen Psaki...
Let me give you the facts here, and I know that can be inconvenient, but I think they're important in this moment. To the contrary, we have been clear that in the short-term supply must keep up with the demand. We are, and here and around the world, will we make the shift to a secure, clean energy future. We are one of the largest producers with a strong domestic oil and gas industry. We have actually produced more oil. It is at record numbers, and we will continue to produce more oil.
They're actually bragging about how much oil the United States is pumping out, which is really obscene. We should think about this for a minute. We have climate change to be worried about, and the Biden administration is running around bragging about how pro-oil they are. That should give everybody an extreme amount of pause, because they were bragging about how much oil they were pumping out even before they put these sanctions on Russia. So if you were hoping for a climate champion from Joe Biden, I'm sorry, but you should be disappointed. And if you're not disappointed by Joe Biden, my guess is that you're uninformed. But this reveals really what Tucker Carlson does. Tucker Carlson represents the acknowledgement of Fox News that they have to operate to some degree in reality. And Tucker Carlson's job is to say things that are at least a little bit true and to warp them into coming to conclusions that are obviously ridiculous. Our response should not be to pump out more oil. Our response should be twofold. One should be to confront the profits of the oil industry, and two, to actually invest in public transportation, public infrastructure to make sure that we don't have car-dependent development. I know a lot of people like to pitch electric cars as the ultimate solution, but the reality is electric cars are always going to be too expensive. We don't have enough resources for everybody to have an electric car, and the environmental impact of electric cars is substantial enough that it's just not a reasonable solution for everybody to have an electric car. We just literally need to do public transit. We need things like trains. We need to be moving away from car-dependent society. But instead of acknowledging that obvious real-life solution that needs to be done in order to deal with climate change, Tucker Carlson says, no, we just need to pump out more oil. And so it's a really simple grift. What Tucker Carlson does will take something that's at least a little bit true, which is the fact that Joe Biden is responsible for gas prices going up right now because of these sanctions. Of course, leaving out the detail that oil companies were increasing prices in advance of the sanctions just because they wanted to make tons of profit and they knew that they could get away with raising prices. And then he will leap to a solution that would only put us further in hot water. That being his idea that we just need to pump out more oil and destroy the planet in the process. All because why? That's right. Because Tucker Carlson wants oil companies to make a huge profit. Because at the end of the day, isn't that really who Fox News and the Republican Party work for? They want to make sure that giant corporations are profiting at the expense of everybody else. And nowhere is that more true than when it comes to oil companies. Because they are quite literally causing climate change, and we have to suffer the consequences from their profits.
This is Ben Corolla with Rebel Headquarters. You can catch my show Galaxy Brain on the Young Turks Twitch channel every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to stay up to date with my content, you can follow me at Benjamin Carollo on Twitter. And lastly, to those of you who might be wondering or have noticed, my pronouns are in fact she, her.